Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Florida City and County Management Association webinar entitled The Internship Toolkit. My name is Bob Lee, and I have the pleasure of serving as your host today. Joining me as co-host is Mike Ryko. Mike is employed with the John Scott Daly Florida Institute of Government, and he'll be the person coordinating our webinar technology today and assisting attendees as needed. Sponsors for today's webinar include the Florida City and County Management Association, the Florida League of Cities, the John Scott Daly Florida Institute of Government, and the Center for Florida Local Government Excellence. Corporate sponsors include Strategic Government Resources and Government Services Group. For those who have not participated in an Fccma webinar before, I want to direct you to the control panel located on the right-hand side of your screen. Specifically, I want to refer you to the item entitled Chat. This is where you may type any question you have for either of today's presenters, or if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, may type in a request for assistance. We always do our very best to respond to all questions posed. Before introducing our presenters today, I do want to acknowledge the members of the Fccma Internship Toolkit Subcommittee that created a helpful toolkit for cities and counties to view in a PDF format in order to assist cities and counties who are developing internship opportunities in their organizations. A copy of the toolkit that they put together is provided in the file section of this webinar. If you go to where it says download handouts and its materials, you'll be able to find a copy of this toolkit. The Florida City and County Management Association also has a copy of this available on their website in the event you are not able to download it today. To be briefly stated, the toolkit, what it does is summarize what several cities and counties have done to successfully launch and implement internship programs in Florida. Thus, it provides a sort of template for others to follow, or several templates. The committee, chaired by Brandon Henry and co-chaired by Ariel Malakowski, included other members such as Catherine Pearson, Desiree Casanova, Douglas Thomas, Emily Cullen, Javarius Jackson, and Justin Tremble. Again, the toolkit, in addition to being available here on our site, is also available at Fccma on their website. This committee's work is timely as we now want to segue into today's presentation and introduce our presenters to you. To the left, you'll see Emma Felix, and she's with Sarasota County Government, Intern Sarasota County Team Lead. Jasmine Gonzalez, the Administrative Services Director for the town of Cutler Bay, and Mike Grivos, the Assistant City Manager in the City of DeLand. Welcome, Elma, Jasmine, and Mike. And before you begin your presentations today, would you each mind just briefly summarizing your background for today's attendees? And I would suggest we take it in the order that you're on the screen. Start with you, Emma, then Jasmine, and then Mike.
Sure, thank you for having me. My name is Elma Felix. I am with Sarasota County Government. I currently work in the planning department in the long range planning section, and I work with land use policies and amending our comprehensive plan. I know that probably does not sound like the traditional intern team leader, intern coordinator, but this organization allows its employees to wear many hats, and I'm really fortunate to be the team lead for Intern Sarasota.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. My name is Jasmine Gonzalez, and I'm the Administrative Services Director for the town of Cutler Bay. And essentially under the umbrella of Administrative Services, I manage the IT interlocal agreement, the internship program, and everything human resources for the town. I've been in this position since 2015, and I started the internship program in 2013, 2014. So it's been a good 8 years almost, and I've had a great time managing it. So I can't wait to share all the information about our high school internship program with you all today. Thank you so much to Bob and Fccma for inviting me.
All right. My name is Mike Rebos. I'm the Assistant City Manager here for the City of DeLand. And I've been with DeLand ever since I got out of college. And actually, I was an intern and picked up by DeLand through internship program. So I kind of have firsthand knowledge of how it was as an intern, and then, you know, how to get on in an organization and stay on. And now I manage one of the internship programs here at the city. So again, I've been with the city since 2003, and I've been in the role as assistant city manager since 2016. And I have a lot of oversight roles. I won't bore you with them today on the call, but yeah, I'm ready to talk, and hope you guys can have any questions and feedback for us.
Thanks again, Alma, Jasmine, and Mike. Just quickly, the format today, each of these presenters are going to present their program, and maybe for the sake of coordinating the questions, we'll probably hold those off till the end in terms of addressing them. So if you could, any specific questions you have for one of the presenters, just sort of note which presenter it is on your own records there, so you can pose that question online here. But they're each going to do a presentation, and then we'll have some discussion afterwards. And I believe, Jasmine, we're going to start with you, correct?
Yes.
You can take over the slides.
Great. Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we started the internship program in 2014, shortly after the town adopted an education compact agreement with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. That was via resolution number 14-03. And it was essentially a compact to just bring together all the resources between the local government and the local public schools and the school board to ensure that our students and citizens were benefiting as much as possible from these resources available to them. And later that year, in around August, the town manager actually met with the principal of the high school to discuss possibilities of developing an internship program but via partnership with the town. We found out through that conversation that similar programs had been established already with several municipalities dating back to 1958 all over Miami-Dade County, but they had some way or other trickled out of the municipal programming as far as internships goes with their local high schools. So we were excited to bring that back into the scene of local government, just having that high school internship program partnership. Sorry, having some trouble with the slides. Okay. Then shortly after that conversation, our town council adopted a resolution which authorized the manager to enter into an internship cooperative agreement. And that sort of gave birth to an honors and executive internship program with our local high school, which we later dubbed the IPREP Executive Internship Program. So a brief overview of what the program entails. So our program provides the students with an opportunity to fully explore their functional local government and provide them with hands-on experience and guidance in order to direct them to future career goals. So the students are given an opportunity to apply to 3 out of our 6 departments, which we have 7 in total, but one of them is contracted out. So we provide the 6 departments that are not contracted out as internship opportunity placements. So community development, finance, the office of the town clerk, the office of the town manager, our parks and recreation department, and our public works department. We require that each student submit a cover letter and with their application package and basically describe what departments they're interested in being in terms of ranking them from the most interested to their third choice if there wasn't space available for them in the first or second, and then just explaining what they know about the departments and why they want to be selected for placement within each department. These cover letters and application packages are reviewed, and then based on the information that they provide and the knowledge that they have, they're then scheduled for interviews. So some fundamentals of the program. The program is only available to the junior class of Cutler Bay Senior High School, and the students must be enrolled in honors classes as well as the IPREP Academy. So Cutler Bay Senior High has 3 academies, It's known as a choice school, so it's magnet, but it's not restricted. So they have a Liberal Arts Academy, an iPrep Academy, and a Coast Academy. And we thought that the iPrep Academy would be most aligned with our mission and goals here at the town. So that's why we chose that academy specifically to work with the internship program. Going back to fundamentals, the students must be in good academic standing in accordance with the high school's academic standards agreement. So they must have good grades overall. Each student is required to complete 5 hours of internship per week or 45 hours per quarter in order to receive one annual honors credit. So it's an unpaid internship program, but they are receiving honors credits for participating. Their application package obviously includes the application, their cover letter, as I previously mentioned, an educational resume, because not all juniors in high school have had work experience. So they need to provide us with a resume based on their education, any extracurricular activities that they're involved in, clubs, etc. Also, proof of insurance. And those things are required prior to selection and placement. Another fundamental of the program is that transportation is solely the responsibility of the student and their parents. So they need to find a way, just like they would for a regular real-life job, they need to find a way to commute to town hall from the high school. And I'll touch back on that later, so you can see how we work that out. Prior to the commencement of the program each year, we provide a student-parent orientation night, and this is where we take an opportunity to just bring all the program information up front and address any questions or concerns that the students or the parents themselves might have relating to the program. This is also where I have an opportunity to review the handbook, because as we all know, a lot of people don't really like to read, but this is where we go over every single section of the handbook and make sure that the students, as well as their parents, understand what the expectations are for their children in the program. So we review things like uniforms, their professional attire, attendance being one of the most important things, the transportation, and we also have a presentation from Miami-Dade Transit. So I didn't include this as a bullet, but it is pretty critical. So as we know, not every high school student has their own means of transportation. A lot of them ride the bus that's provided by Miami-Dade County Public Schools, or they get picked up and dropped off by their parents, or they catch rides with friends. So the town actually has an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County for its local circulator bus. And Miami-Dade Transit, through that interlocal, provides discounted rates to students where they can catch the circulator bus from the high school to town hall for only 10 cents a day. So all they have to do is sign up for a transit card and produce a copy of their schedule, their school schedule, and a copy of their photo ID. And they're given this card with discounted rates so that they can ride the circulator. And they can use it for other things too, not just to come to internship, but that's the primary goal, is to get them to ride the circulator from school to town hall so that they get that experience as well of using public transit in case they find themselves without their own personal means of transportation. It's very safe. We get that question a lot from the parents during parent orientation night. They're not super like chaperoned in any way, but the circulator they do have like camera recording on the inside of the bus. So they are supervised in a way, and we always make sure that whoever's riding the circulator bus, they're dropped off at a reasonable time and that their whereabouts are always recorded. So they either are part of a WhatsApp conversation, or they send me emails letting me know if the circulator is running late or whatever. It's also a way for the town to hold the county accountable for the service that they provide via the circulator bus. So it kind of covers a lot of bases. During parent orientation night, the students and the parents are also provided an opportunity to ask questions and raise concerns regarding any part of the program. So we'll review the handbook, we'll go over everything, review the expectations, the transportation, and the whole process from start to finish. So from the interview all the way to the end of the year presentation is all covered, so everyone's on the same page. Following the parent orientation night, we have an interview process. So the interviews are usually conducted at the high school, and I involve my department heads because I truly appreciate their buy-in. Their participation in the program is critical. If I don't have their buy-in, it tends to stray off of the mission. So I keep them a part of the whole process by including them in the interviews, so that they also have kind of an idea of what it takes to make a selection and build each student their experience based on their skill set, if that makes sense. So they're provided with a binder that contains all the student's complete application package, and I developed a standard set of interview questions that it kind of highlights each student's skill set. So what their academic strengths are, if they're social and involved in extracurricular activities, we can kind of build on that and see what department would best fit the student based on that skill set and their experience. And then from there, the students are instructed to basically treat this interview process the same way they would treat a real world employer interview. So they must dress, prepare, and communicate as they would if they wanted to be seriously considered for a real life position with the town, the same way they would if they were going to go apply to Amazon or some other big corporation. Then following each interview, the student is provided individual feedback on their overall performance. So what we get a lot is, because they're young and inexperienced, they like to swivel in the chairs and tap on the tables, and or they'll sometimes I've had them say things during an interview that as an adult you would find inappropriate or unprofessional. We would give them that constructive criticism and feedback, so that when they do get to the point of graduating high school and applying to a real world job, they're not making the same mistakes, and they're better prepared, and they have that kind of rough draft experience. Following the interviews and the feedback, we then go into recommendations to the town manager on placement of each intern into the department. So not only do we take into consideration their cover letter, their interview, where they want to be placed, but we also then, based on our experience in the interview and conversations with the students, make a recommendation to the manager, who then he either agrees, he approves, or he makes some revisions because he gets to meet the students as well. And then we deliver those placement letters to the students with a copy to the high school, so the high school knows this is where they applied, this is how they performed during the interview, and this is where we're placing them. There's constant communication between the town and the school. Then upon their first day, the interns will then report to town hall. I provide them with a mini tour of the facilities, introduce them to all the departments, since they will eventually be touching each and every department. Even though they're placed in one, we all work together. So they'll know where everything is, who's the department head of each department, and what admins they should speak to if they want certain things, certain tasks or projects, if they need help with those things. Then they're introduced to their departments that they're placed in. Our attendance for the interns is tracked using a log at the front desk, kind of like a time clock. So they know, the students are conditioned to know the minute they arrive at town hall, they need to visit the front desk and sign in and then sign out before they leave for the day. The attendance is collected weekly by me and shared with the high school to ensure that all the students are meeting the attendance requirement of 5 or more hours per week. Then any extra hours worked outside of what's required by the internship is awarded to students as community service hours. So it kind of incentivizes them to work a little bit more. They're not just showing up and sitting around. They actually get involved in some of our special projects here at the town. So not in addition to the department head assigning them specific tasks, and they're basically responsible for ensuring the intern completes those assignments. They also they usually take it upon themselves to come in and work extra hours. Like, for example, this past Christmas break, the schools were out for 2 weeks, and we had 3 interns show up every single day, working 5 hours every single day just because they wanted to. And it was really exciting and really interesting to see how involved they made themselves. So the assignments are department specific and are meant to highlight the students' academic strengths and creative skill sets, which is what I mentioned before. The department head is also responsible for grading the performance of their intern on a quarterly basis. So the school board requires that any entity hosting an internship deliver a quarterly grade report. So on each intern. So they'll send me an email reminding me, hey, the quarterly grade reports are due for your interns. Please submit them by this date. I then coordinate those grade reports with the department heads to ensure that the interns are graded on their specific performance and their assignments for each department. One important thing to note is the town has a strict zero tolerance policy for disrespect, insubordination, and truancy. Not to say that we've experienced this a lot, but again, these are high school students. We all know they can be hormonal and excited, and a lot of them kind of like to test the boundaries the same way they would with their teachers in school or, whatever the case may be. We have a very strict policy on that. It's as simple as contacting the school. This student is not a good fit because of XYZ situation, and the town does not tolerate any disrespect, insubordination, and truancy. So then the school takes it upon themselves to reassign them. So they're no longer with the town. They move back into the high school. So some of the town is a very active participant in the Relay for Life of South Dade that happens every year, and over time it's kind of been absorbed by our iPrep executive interns. So we provide them this group project of developing the team for the town every single year for Relay for Life, and the project is a requirement for them. So regardless of the days that they report to internship, A day versus B day, and I bring that up because sometimes over the years we've had large group of interns and we'd had to break them up into 2 different days just to better manage the group as a whole. So regardless of the day that they would report, they all have to have a role in the project and then find a way to work cohesively to bring it all together for the day of the actual event. The intern grade reports for the 3rd quarter reflect the grade for this group project. So it's not like it's just something that gets done and they're not graded on it. It is absolutely something that gets documented via grade. Additionally, the interns are required to create an end of the year presentation, and these presentations are department specific and sum up the interns' overall experience within the program. This is really important because I've noticed that as the years have gone on, the incoming interns or the pool of incoming interns, they tend to be more interested in hearing about the experience directly from the interns who were involved the previous year. So it gets them more excited and they have more enthusiasm as far as applying for an internship with the town the following year. So yeah, going to the end of the year presentations, the students are instructed to develop a PowerPoint or a video that addresses the assignments they've worked on and what they learned about the department and what their likes and dislikes about the program were. They also need to identify their strongest takeaways and answer questions asked by their audience. The audience, like I said before, is the sophomore class in the iPrep Academy, and they're essentially the incoming juniors or prospective interns for the following academic year. And then lessons learned over time. So as I said, this program has been in place since 2014, and we've gone through so many changes. It's really grown to be one of my most prized projects here at the town. It's something that I saw from inception to where it is now, and I've seen it grow and I've seen it mature, and it's just something I'm incredibly proud of. But it has come with tons of trial and error. Like, I understand now why high school internship programs don't necessarily work in other cities. A lot of cities seem to take it more of a babysitting kind of thing, but if you take the time to really manage it and put the accountability back onto the interns themselves, you'll learn that it kind of grows and matures in a way that's very surprising and can bring you a lot of a lot of pride to your organization. So with that, span of control is super important. Over the years, the town has toggled between the numbers of interns that we accept. In the beginning, we had approximately 28 interns and had a hard time managing all of them. So like I said earlier, we would divide them into two groups. And that kind of helped to alleviate some of that lack of control. Then we reduced the number of interns over the years from that 28 to now we have 8. And then we assisted the high school with other agencies that they could refer those leftover interns to. So places like East Ridge Retirement Village, the Office of County Commissioner Daniela Levin-Cava, and the South Miami-Dade Cultural Arts Center. They've all accepted high school interns and have been really, really happy with having this reference. I mentioned this in the beginning, colleague buy-in is another super, super huge lesson learned. In order for this whole high school internship program to work, you definitely need buy-in from your fellow department heads as well as your senior leadership. If the town manager or your city manager is not in on it, it's probably not going to work. Luckily, our town manager is one of the biggest proponents of education that I've ever met in my life, and he absolutely loves our internship program. So having him support it and make it a responsibility of our department heads to get involved and holding us all accountable to make it work really it's what's made this last as long as it has. And then crystal clear communication and documentation. It teaches the students how to be accountable. The more communication you have with the high school, the more communication you have with the students, the less likely you're going to have someone fall off the tracks. So it's very critical to keep that clear communication and document as much as possible so that you know what works and what doesn't over time. And that's pretty much it. Thank you again so much for inviting me to the webinar. I really, really am so happy to have this opportunity to share our experience with the high school internship program with you all today.
Thank you, Jasmine. Exceptionally well done. And I particularly like those lessons learned. Those look like, that looks like a template for just programs generally, some things that are best practices in terms of making things clear and span of control and having a buy-in, including that of your CEO, et cetera. So I'm going to reserve more detailed comments to later because I want to make sure that Alma and Mike have an opportunity to present their programs, but very well done, and we thank you for doing that. Alma, why don't you take the slides from here?
Great, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Jasmine, for sharing an incredible program. Let me try to get control of my screen here. So again, my name is Elma, and I am the team lead for Intern Sarasota County. It is a pleasure to share this program with you, and I'm actually happy that we followed Jasmine because our program is very new. Our first year was 2019. So I'm going to walk you through the program and talk to you about some components and sort of where we are in our process. So for those of you who may not know, Sarasota County is on the west coast of Florida. We're about an hour south of Tampa, and that's our closest metro area. Our population is about 426,000 residents, and that balloons to about 500,000 in the winter months, which I'm sure is not unlike any other typical, southernmost Florida county. Because of our location and our features, we tend to attract a certain demographic to our shores, which is, surprise, surprise, retirees. And again, I'm sure that that's not something that's just unique to our county. But we face some challenges because of this demographic nature. So as you can see on the screen, our labor force is steadily declining. In 2018, less than half of our population participated in the labor force. And we noticed another trend, that although we have 3 local area colleges, graduates weren't sticking around. So we polled a group of soon-to-be graduates from 2 local area colleges and asked if they relocate after graduation and why. And 90% of them said that they'd relocate, and they noted that the lack of job opportunities was one of the highest factors. So in addition to the 2 things that we just looked at, and looking at some of the headlines that we see, Sarasota ranked as #1 best place to retire. It's not really quite attracting, our young target millennials. And again, another headline saying just that we're not luring millennials. And young folks and folks that we want to join our workforce are quicker to jump over to St. Pete or Tampa or Miami. So we asked ourselves a series of questions. based on our unique demographic conditions, things were happening in our community, and we were experiencing sort of a regional brain drain. And it forced us to reconsider the tools in our organizational toolkit. What could we be doing better in our community, or to lead with example? And that led us to lead with innovation. And in came Intern Sarasota County. So it's important to pause here to sort of note a few unique things about this program. Intern Sarasota was conceptualized in a program called the Employee Input Group. It's a sort of a think tank for our organization that's comprised of county leadership and a pool of employees that are hand-selected by our administration. I know in government sometimes we tend to think that we move a little bit slower, but Intern Sarasota County had a literal jump start because we pitched this project to begin in the summer of 2020, and we were told to go faster. So we had about 5 to 6 months of a ramp up between idea conceptualization and interns actually walking through the door. So it was a bit of a panic, but we were able to pull it off through Herculean effort on behalf of our administration, human resources, and a stellar team to move forward. So in 2019, we opened our doors to 18 interns, all hailing from in-state, out-of-state, and we had one international student. They were here for 12 weeks within 12 different departments in the county. When we thought about the program, we thought about our experiences as interns and the things that we wish we had as a part of an internship program and things that we knew that we could have improved for this program. So the first, sorry, I skipped ahead a slide there. The first is project-based experience. We wanted to make sure that we were giving our interns meaningful work experience. We didn't want them to be sitting in a cubicle all day, scanning files or fetching coffee. We wanted them to feel connected to their work and to really understand how their role syncs up within the department and ultimately understand the role that we play in serving our community. On the left of the screen, we have some interns mapping mangrove forests and plotting points using GIS to track changes in the mangrove ecosystem. On the right, interns are checking crosswalks for ADA compliance, and that was then mapped into an interactive map using GIS plotting points. The second component is professional development. Over the course of Intern Sarasota, we held about 5 professional development events. And I know on the screen it looks like everyone's having fun. They're playing with hula hoops and putting some fun colors on a map. But we really challenged ourselves to share information differently than a traditional presentation. We knew that our audience was millennials, and we had to make sure that we were communicating in a way that they were understanding the information and understanding the information differently. The session ranged from how to negotiate a salary, how to grow and maintain a professional network, how to prepare a presentation for Board of County Commissioners. And we also had a series of volunteer events to better connect our interns with how we serve our community and just getting better connected to our community. And the last component is mentorship, and easily one of the most important parts of our program. Each intern was paired with a staff mentor for the duration of the internship. They were paired not only by their career paths, but common interests. Mentors served as a point of connection, someone to help orient and welcome the intern to our organization, to ask questions that they didn't feel comfortable asking their supervisor or manager. Hey, I have a neighborhood workshop or meeting. What should I wear? Or how do I make a reservation for a county vehicle? Just someone to have as a point person to help welcome them upon their arrival. It was also one of the most rewarding parts, getting feedback from the staff who volunteered their time to mentor a student and to also watch that staff grow professionally. So I talked in the beginning about our program getting ramped up pretty quickly. So let's talk about a little bit of the groundwork and how we were able to make that happen. So the pilot program, which again, it was the first time that we did it in 2019, the program itself, which was the moving parts, the events, the promotional materials, that was funded by Human Resources and our administration, and the interns were budgeted for and funded by the individual departments. So if the planning department said, hey, I would like to have a full-time intern, they were then responsible for funding that within their individual department budget. The next is intern selection. So the departments prepared job description based on a series of tasks that they wanted to complete. The majority of these tasks really synced up with our overall departmental goals and strategies, which also aligns with the county's strategic plan and goals for the year. Our human resources department recruited at local area colleges and universities in person and by a handshake, which is an online tool. I believe it's cloud-based that allows you to upload all of your internship documents or internship opportunities for various both private and public sectors. Our internships were also posted on our own county portal, and the applications were tracked by individual departments and human resources. Departments then selected and interviewed interns based on the applications that they received and those that they thought were the best fit. Departments prepared those project-based work tasks, which is what I talked about before, and those dovetail into the county's strategic plan and goals. Supervisors then track tasks and workload within the department, and mentors, again, provided that organizational guidance and assistance. Each of our interns prepared a final presentation and presented them to administration, management, and staff, and the presentations could have been held individually or in groups based on their work assignments. And I'd like to share one of those internship presentations with you. It is a video that was done by one of our communications interns, Tyler. And if you don't mind, Mike, hitting the play button for me. So much.
If someone was thinking of interning with Sarasota County, I would definitely tell them to go for it. There's been so many different opportunities and so much support along the way to help me grow and develop.
It opened my eyes to the different aspects of like the audio industry. Like this could be a thing, teaching garage band classes or helping in the music archives. I didn't even know that music archives was a career that I could go into.
My favorite part that they've added this summer has been, the professional development courses and meeting the other interns.
I just wanted some work experience, It's my first time really working in an office and getting that experience. And it was kind of just a fun internship near where I'm originally from in Fort Charlotte.
I'm very passionate about the environment and environmental education. And then I also really enjoy event planning. And I was like, this internship is the perfect way to combine the two.
This internship will definitely help me with my eventual career path. I'm a geographer, and Parks and Recreation has a lot of uses for geography and geographic information systems.
Everybody in the department has made sure that I've been involved with anything and everything that I want to learn. No one has said no to anything I've asked to do. So even if it's just for a summer, being able to affect a positive, good change in the community that means a lot to me is really important.
Everyone is such an expert in their field, and just getting to see what all they do and learn from them has just been so great.
Hands down, I would recommend interning with Sarasota County government because of the great learning environment and incredible people I worked with who really wanted me to succeed. One word to describe my internship as a whole would be gratifying.
Inspiring.
Fun.
Fantastic.
I'd say friendship.
Exciting.
Engaging.
An adventure.
Thank you, Mike. So we had no idea that Tyler was preparing this video at all. It came as a surprise to us at the final presentation. He wanted to go last. And I think once he shared the video, there was not a dry eye, at least for our planning team. There was not a dry eye in the room. It was very touching, and we really had no idea that this program was going to be so phenomenal, not just for us planning, but for the interns and them having such a wonderful experience and sharing some wonderful feedback with us. So on that note, I'd like to thank you very much again for having Sarasota County at the table and at this webinar. And I would look forward to any feedback or any questions you guys might have towards the end. Thanks again.
Thank you, Alma. And I like the fact that, of course, we're talking about a different level of student in your program in terms of their academic level. And for a first-year program, obviously, just like Jasmine's, it was well-structured, well-organized. So again, I'll wait to hold some comments until after we hear from Mike Gribos. But thank you, Alma, for taking the time to put this together and be part of this program as well. Mike, you're up.
All right, thanks, Bob. Yeah, so we're going to take a little bit of a different approach, and what we did over here in Volusia County in DeLand is that we did a program in partnership actually with Fccma, and it was back in 2017, and that was to look and help foster internships for people who are specifically interested in potentially becoming city managers or something involved with the general management of cities. So, you know, I hit the up button instead of the right button. Here we go. So anyway, so going on, here's what we're going to hit in the presentation. Just go about the background, then talk about budgeting, launching it, lessons learned, and then a wrap up. So like I said before, this was created back in 2017 with Fccma, and I was on part of that student council subcommittee with the internship. So I took lead in trying to get this done here for Volusia. And I know when we did this back in 2017, 2018 time period, I think Sarasota area also had a potential shared internship, and there was, I think, one other. I don't know if it was in the Lakeland area, but there were a few that FCCMA launched at that time for basically, focusing on city management. The Volusia County model, which I'm going to talk about today, is basically where we partnered with 4 other jurisdictions. So DeLand partnered with 3 other places to get a split, basically with 3 months at each location for the intern. So we would have one intern. We didn't have 28 or 48. We only had one. But we would select that one, and that one would move around and get varied experience at varying organizations, varying departments with varying projects. So they really got a full array of things on what they could do and what would be experienced as a general management type of a profession. So when you look at talking about the budgeting, we tried to, as a group, I got with all these partners, and I'll talk to you about this a little later on in the presentation. But when I was able to round up all the partners, we were able to come to a conclusion about the pricing and what we would get to attract the intern. And you can see here we did a $12.50 per hour rate for this college intern. Now it could be a college undergrad, or it could have been even a graduate student. We really didn't have a specific requirement, but it had to be in college. We liked the person to be in a public administration or an MPA program, preferably. And again, we thought $12.50 an hour was a pretty good in our area, in the Orlando area, to get somebody to come. So you can see what it costs the organization. So anytime I go out and talk to the partners and everything, they kind of knew right up front, this is what it was going to cost. This was going to be their share for your portion with the intern. And it made it pretty easy to make a decision, yes or no on. And so that was there. Now, this was the big thing about launching. One partner has to, in our model, one partner really needed to be the lead agency. And the reason for that is because, we hired this intern as an actual intern/employee. So you have to get all their information for payroll, workers' comp, all this other stuff, in processing paperwork. So we had one partner agency, which in our case was DeLand, and they were basically the hiring entity, and the intern basically worked for DeLand through the entire thing. But, when their time with DeLand was done, they moved on to, say, New Smyrna or somewhere else, but they still basically got paid through DeLand. So it was easy, and it made it fairly simple in that sense. And that's what I talk about in setting parameters on invoicing. The other piece was when we talked about the monetary figure, we have to look at, okay, well, how are we going to get, as a city in DeLand, since we're making the payment to the, intern, how are we going to get reimbursed? So we thought about all different scenarios, and to me, I put them up here. There's all different ways to do it, but we found that post usage is probably the best model, because sometimes, as you can see later on in my slides, we may not have an intern set out from the beginning and make it to the end, and I'll explain some reasons why. So the way post usage worked was, after the intern completed their 3 months, then we'd submit an invoice, and then the other city would pay, and it worked out really well. Again, talking about launching, starting to look for partners, we think about 6 months out, and this is partner agencies, because again, budgets are budgets for cities, and especially smaller cities up here in Volusia County area. They need to plan for these type of things. So getting with them when they're doing their budget processing for the new year was a good idea to do so. They were able to get back to me in time and say, hey, we're in, and then we get that commitment. So that's how, basically that started, and we were able to get the commitments, and then we knew who our partner agency were, and then we would move forward. And in moving forward, basically what we're trying to talk about here is, what was talked about in some of the other pieces was we had to create a job description, general job description. And I think in our internship toolkit that may be out there, we have something like that for everybody to look at. You want to get a list of projects for the intern in advance. So when you get your partners, ask them, are there any major projects they have that they want this intern to do? And again, since it's a general management one, we really didn't leave it to the specific departments. We just kind of asked the point of contact that I had at each organization to get a list together. And then we talk about, having varied projects as well. Because it's a general management thing, we didn't really want all this just to be in the city manager's office. Maybe go see what finance does, go see what Parks and Rec does, and have some varied projects in that, even economic development area. And all of these type of things interns have had projects in these areas. But during the interview process, when we interview potential interns, we've asked them, hey, do you have a specific interest area? And if they say they have an interest area in community development, then you know what, we'll try, at least, I know in DeLand, we tried to get them involved with community development department, or if we didn't have a project, at least have them to go down there, talk, and kind of just find out what goes on and things like that. So we were trying to be very accommodating in this as well. Now, talking about the interview, we were able to, when we secured all the partners, we were able to say, hey, send us one person from your organization. Usually it was like an assistant city manager or the HR director from that city, and they'd come and sit on an interview panel, and we would interview all the candidates that applied for the job in kind of like a panel interview process, which I think helps those students learn how to interview, and it's a good experience for everybody involved, because that also creates buy-in from the partners, because everybody at that table is selecting the intern, not just one organization. So that's a good thing. And then again, how to get the interns. This is what we learned, is that, you have many options. You have all your agency websites that you can post a job on. You go through the Fccma job board. ICMA has a job board. We have ICMA student chapters at some local universities. So you can get the word out to those folks. And if anybody doesn't know how to get the word out to ICMA student chapters, you can contact Fccma, and we have the contacts for that as well. Directly contacting the area college and or university, their career offices. That's the best way. I know in the model prior, they said the handshake network. Yes, that's what some of the colleges use here as well. So they get us signed up through there. Also, there's the local public administration programs directly at the colleges. I know you think, well, I contacted the career office already. Well, we've also contacted, say, the professor responsible for public administration, made them aware of it, and to be honest, that seemed to be our best way of getting the word out, because those professors have the daily contact with the students and really can emphasize an importance of the internship. And we've seemed to get our best results when we talk through the local public administration professors and the faculty to make them aware of the position and give them all that information. And again, we usually like to advertise the program when it starts with our fiscal year, because we tried to do it with the fiscal years here in Volusia, which was October 1. So we would look to advertise a month prior to that, so maybe August, September. And really that works out, because in August and September is when basically students are getting into that fall semester and trying to find an internship. And in a lot of cases, some schools have credits for internships, some schools don't, but at least everybody's getting that exposure right when they're coming back to school and are able to, hopefully we get a good group to select from. And that's where I'm leading into my lessons learned also. One of the big things is you want to try to get the partners to commit to a multi-year agreement with this budgeting, because it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to know if an organization says, well, this year I'm in, and then you only have a 1 year, and then next year they say, well, we have some other needs and commitments, and we can't, and then we can't do it, and then we have to scramble to try to find a replacement partner. So if you can get a multi-year agreement with some of your partner organizations, that would be very helpful. Another thing I referenced earlier was one of the issues that we've seen in our internship program was the interns leaving the program early. Because a lot of the times we hired MPA level students, these students would also be looking for jobs while they're at the internship. And a lot of the times when they're getting ready to graduate, they want to find a job and they apply, and then they tell us, hey, you know what, we use this internship as a reference and part of our job, a resume and our application, and we got a job in X, organization. So it really actually helped them, and that's definitely part of the point of this program. But the downside is sometimes when you're on the end of that rotation, in the May time frame, you may not have gotten the intern at all or only partial. And with that, we would have to do some crediting back on the invoicing for the partner. So that was a little bit of a lesson learned. And additionally, what we try to do, because you have a multi-year agreement, is that if you have the 4 partners spread out during the year, the partners that got the intern earlier in the year in the first part of the agreement, we would say, okay, well, now in the second year of this, you guys are going to get the intern towards the end. So hopefully it kind of averages out, and if the intern leaves early, well, at least in 1 year a city got that intern for their full 3-month rotation. Another thing, like has been mentioned before in a lot of these programs, you want to do wrap-ups. You want to do wrap-up reviews with the partner agencies, see if there was anything they could do better. And then we did exit interviews with the interns when they left, and asked them how they felt the program went. And really, for the years that we've done it, all the interns have been very pleased, and all of our interns actually have gotten placed at a career in local government afterwards. So it has been a really good success, and we'd like to hope to think that the internship was involved with that. One other lesson learned, because where we are in the Orlando market, the DeLand area, which is about 30 minutes west of Daytona Beach and about 45 minutes north of Orlando, if we picked a student up from UCF that's based out of Orlando, that's a bit of a drive for an intern to come on an intern's budget with school and classes and everything. So one of the things we looked at doing was saying, hey, if you're going to be traveling from school to one of the cities, we'll pay you for that travel time, because that's another incentive for these interns to select this job and to do it. So we thought that was a good thing, and that turned out as a good success as well. So those are really the quick lessons learned, and at the end we'll be basically ready for any questions if anybody has any, and I think we're getting ourselves in on the time. So Bob?
Hey, Mike, Jasmine, Alma, you all did an outstanding job. Just Mike mentioned, you kept it timely, very thorough yet concise. Great jobs. I don't see any questions. We certainly are open if anyone wants to submit any questions, but we do have 5 minutes or so left. Let me go to the presenters now that you've each had an opportunity to present your programs and listen to the other 2 programs. Let me ask out there, do either of you 3 have any other comments? Maybe you want to reinforce something that you heard from one of your colleagues here on the panel, or just go back and revisit something that you said that you want to particularly want to emphasize for those who are interested in developing an internship program. So it's open. I won't call on either of you 3, but if any one of you have something you'd like to add, please do so at this time.
Well, Bob, it's Mike. I think that the only other thing I wanted to say is that our internship program here that we had in Volusia County actually didn't happen this year. So, and the reason was because of some of these partnerships and issues with budgets. So again, trying to have a multi-year agreement really with these agencies that you partner with really is a good idea. And staying on top of it, and because personnel change at the organizations as well and things like that. So checking in frequently is a good idea, because it sometimes these things slip through the cracks. So, and you don't really want the momentum to get lost. So that's one of the things I just want to say is really trying to emphasize either having a good contact, keeping current contacts with your partner agencies in the area, and trying to get that multi-year agreement for an internship.
And this is Elma, just piggybacking off of that, Mike. I think something that we're also challenged with, because this 2019 was our first year, and we really would like this to become a part of our company culture. So we've been tasking ourselves to rethink the way that we're presenting this within our organization, to not only make sure that our organization is ready, to make sure that department directors are aware, they're budgeting for interns ahead of time, but to make sure that we are continuously emphasizing the importance of having this program within our organization in order to help with our succession planning, to attract a pool of young talent, not just to Sarasota County government, but to our shores, because this is a regional issue that we're facing. So we want to make sure that we're at least, having a seat at the table in order to have some benefit to our shores.
Jasmine, any final thoughts?
No, not really. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, again, thank all three of you. I don't see any other questions. Let me just make some final comments. One, I want to emphasize, Mike, you mentioned is one of the lessons learned about the public administration programs and actually reaching out to them. And I can't emphasize that enough, the importance of that. Additionally, I would emphasize that it's best if you can have a contact person, someone who's actually going to champion something like this for the university. Like every other profession, professors, some are more interested than others. Some have different time constraints than others. Their priorities differ. So if you have someone that you genuinely can meet and know is going to champion it, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they may be, if they have an ICMA student chapter, they're the advisor. That's a person to work with, because they will be able to work with, and they'll know the students who are not only interested in internships, but actually are required to have internships. I know at FGCU, ours is a completely online Master's of Public Administration program. And we do have, as part of it, a graduate certificate in local government management. Some of our students, if they don't have the practical experience, they're actually required to have an internship. And in my particular case, I would know who that would be. So if, I throw my name out there as rlee@fgcu.edu. If you have an internship, or if you want to talk about one, I'd be glad to work with you on that. The other thing I want to mention, in addition to acknowledging Jasmine and Elma and Mike, is to give a special acknowledgement to their CEOs. Raphael and John Lewis there, and Mike Ployce in DeLand, Raphael and Cutler Bay. These guys, I remember when they were the future leaders of the profession, and then they became the leaders, and now they have people working with them that are the future leaders. And I even would say the three of you are at that level where many are looking at you as leaders in the profession. And I know Mike, as a member of the Fcma board, you certainly would fit that bill. But Jasmine and Elma, same thing. I mean, just the work that you've done and working with Fccma certainly evidences that you have that leadership moniker as well. So thank you to them for supporting you all and for doing that. I also want to make sure that we acknowledge again the Internship Toolkit Subcommittee, who put together this package, which, by the way, when you read that as attendees, you'll see that a couple of the programs that were covered today are actually included therein with the details. So they did a thorough job in looking what resources and what programs are available around the state. Also want to acknowledge the Professional Development Committee of Fccma. They are the ones who actually identify the topics and put the details of these webinars together, and they do that every year, and of course do a great job. The webinars, by the way, are held monthly. For someone who may be only joining us for the first time, Fccma provides these at no cost for people to join in. They're also can be accessed on demand through the website of cflge.org. cflge.org. You go to the webinar tab, and you'll be able to access webinars for the last 10 years with various topics. So this will be logged therein, and you'll be able to access it on demand at any time. Finally, I want to acknowledge the Fcma board. They're the ones who do this, fund this, or arrange for it to be funded, and make certain that that the Professional Development Committee has the resources they need, notably the excellent staff, Carol Russell and Casey Cook, to be available to assist them. And I guess the last item I really do have, I said final before, but is to acknowledge the attendees who participated today and participate in all these webinars, because you are what creates value for these webinars by participating, listening in, and what I have found to be the case is probably more people listen on demand than they do live, just because of busy schedules. So don't forget that you can access these webinars later at some point as well. We are just about to adjourn, and when we do adjourn, I would ask if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment, and a survey is going to pop up. If you could just fill in a couple questions for Fccma, that too would be great, much appreciated. So with those final comments, again, thank you all for your participation, and we're now adjourned.
Thank you for having me.